Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined this fine Thursday by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak, where we are going to break down the entire Week 1 slate, save for a barn-burning Chiefs-Lions game you witnessed on NBC and Peacock Thursday evening. I just couldn't even believe when Jahmyr Gibbs actually was a wide receiver and caught 7 passes for 169 yards. Denny, was absolutely amazing stuff.
Yeah, 400 air yards for the running back.
400 air yards. But we're breaking down, again, all 15 games that are not Thursday Night Football. That includes the Dolphins at the Chargers, the Bills at the New York Jets as Aaron Rodgers begins his Jets sojourn. The Browns at the Bengals at the Browns. I had that wrong, and then Adam fixed it, and then I tried to unfix it in my head just now.
You really want that game to be in Cincinnati?
I do. It says there's every game in Cleveland we know is greeted by a Lake Erie hurricane. Yes. We do not want that. But yeah, no. First, let's just get a quick vibe check, a quick where your state of mind as the regular season begins. You know, it's a really fun day for the rest of America. For us, it means got a lot of work.
I know.
How you guys doing?
I still have like a dozen or more best ball drafts to do that I have to do all right after the show. Because I have a bunch of tickets to the best ball drafts, and if I don't use them, they just disappear. That's just like money that leaves my pocket. So I have to do all of them. And I was like, oh, I got like 20 or 30 tickets, like the big, DraftKings contest. Oh, whatever. I'll do them. I'll do them in the final 2 weeks. I'll do them in the final 9 days. I'll do them and I kept traveling and like we went out to shoot a bunch of stuff in Stanford, like on the happy hour. And I just kept pushing it off. And now I'm doing 3 or 4 drafts at a time. My eyes are bleeding. It's bad.
Well, hey, listen, they're giving away those tickets on DK. They're trying to fill that thing hard. I witnessed that myself. So I feel for you to have to do so many best ball drafts. But the thing is, I like best ball drafts at this time, like right up at the edge of the season. And I know there's something to be said, like, oh, you have an edge in the spring before anybody's drafting. Forget about all that. I want to know something. I want to know something about something before I draft the team. So I like best ball drafts this time of year.
And yet there's still so much we do not know, like how things will shake out in the Eagles' backfield, like who the Texans' number 1 receiver might actually be. Denny apparently doesn't know how touches are going to shake out in the Falcons' backfield. He's the only one in America who does not know this. James Cook is going to get enough work. Who the
Cardinals starting quarterback is, supposedly they're going with Dobbs, and it's going to be great when they come out with the real competitive advantage of, it was 2 the whole time, then they lose by 30.
Yes.
Yep. Who the Bears starting running back is, we're going to tackle all of this on the show, but we begin the year with the fantasy extravaganza of Week 1. The Los Angeles Chargers prepare to welcome the Miami Dolphins and 70,000 of their fans to beautiful SoFi Stadium in Southern California, where the Chargers will never have a majority of the fans in their own stadium, Denny. The Chargers have the points as 3-point home favorites in this 51 total affair, but I would like to believe we prefer the Dolphins skill core. You are lower than consensus on Jalen Waddle this summer, Denny, but is it safe to say every Dolphin will get home this weekend? I'm asking you to tell me are good players going to be good in this game, Denny? A real great way to start the year.
Good and bad things are not necessarily different, Pat. And so I'll start there. No, I mean, Waddle was pretty much shut down last year against the Chargers, who were the first team to do what needed to be done against Miami, which was to shut down the middle of the field, which is where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have feasted during the brief Mike McDaniel era. Now, there's no reason to think that they'll approach this differently. Talking about the Chargers defense, you're starting Waddle. I do think that you need to have your expectations in check on Waddle as like a locked in, like PPR wide receiver 2 option here. The Chargers play a lot of press coverage, and he has not been fantastic against that. Now, Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, has roasted that kind of coverage. So I think that you can be confident that Hill will get there. I actually don't know. Even though it's a good environment and everything.
Even in this game environment, you're actually going to be worried about
Jalen. I actually think the game environment is good overall, like high total, obviously. But
both teams are good pace too. Last year, the Chargers were top 5 in pace. The Dolphins last year were above average in pace. They're also a high pass rate over expected team, especially looking at just games with Tua. Like I agree that like you're still looking at Waddle as like, oh, he's the guy who like is not going to be schemed the touches as much. He's probably an easier player. I don't want to say for opponents to take away, but opponents are at least saying Tyreek Hill is the guy. And McDaniel knows that. And he's doing everything he can, moving him inside, outside, giving him different looks, giving him like more carries and stuff. He's the focal point, whereas Waddle is just one of the league's best wide receiver twos. On a lot of other teams, he is the focal point. So I think he's more fragile in that sense. And I like agree with you in the directional nature of what you're saying. But this game looks sick, dude. You're obviously playing Waddle, and I'm fine saying like he's like a pretty good like wide receiver 12 through 14 type of bet, like just on that one.
I've got him in the top 10, honestly, based solely on the game environment. I don't think it's really instructive what happened last December. That was kind of when the Dolphins have been like in a lot of like quarterback chaos. A lot of teams have been taking them where they had some bad weather games. They kind of just like got out of rhythm. And that could happen again this year, but I think they're going to be in rhythm again for this home game in Southern California at SoFi Stadium. Kyle, we talked about the receivers just now. Dolphins, even if we don't know how the Dolphins are going to produce against the Chargers, we know like how the targets, how the receiving is going to shake out. We don't entirely know how the backfield is going to shake out. It's Raheem Mostert. It's the Dolphins' top draft pick, Devin Achane. It's Salvin Ahmed, maybe in the mix somewhere with Jeff Wilson on injured reserve. But we know Raheem Mostert is who we want to play in fantasy, correct? And is he like an RB2? Is he a top 24 option for week one? Raheem Mostert moments tend to be fleeting. But it seems like this might be. It seems
they
like
burn
this
bright.
Might be one.
They genuinely burn very bright for as little as it seems like they last, because he has a pretty dense injury history and has generally been like a deep roster level player, not a starter who has an injury history. But when they burn bright because he is an incredibly talented like breakaway runner, and he has always played in systems, and he will this week and will for the rest of the season, that promote that breakaway production. And now he has really probably the worst competition for touches, which is good for him in that even though you don't want to load up a guy like Mostert with touches, there aren't many other opportunities for them to give other guys touches in this backfield. Achane is like 5'8", 188, and he was playing with the fourth stringers in the preseason. Like, sure, you want to get him more reps, but like, that's not what we saw in Bijan Robinson. That's not what we saw with Jahmyr Gibbs. He was treated like a rookie, and rookies generally early in the season aren't getting theirs as much as they are late. So yeah, this is like a really good spot for Raheem Mostert. It's a fast-paced game, should be a lot of scoring, and he has the potential to see like more touches in one game than he really ever has before. So yeah, I'm totally fine calling him an RB2. And I don't think it'll last. Jeff Wilson will come back. They'll get him his touches. Achane will get worked up to speed, and they will give him more touches in week 8 than they will this week probably. But for now, as long as we got this set up, yeah, RB2 for sure.
Denny, we talked a lot about the Dolphins here to begin. We called them narrow. The Chargers are fairly narrow too. We know it's Keenan Allen. We know it's Mike Williams. We know it's Austin Eckler. We don't know if it'll be Quentin Johnston, who was a first-round pick. He was kind of like the forgotten man of like the high-end skill players this summer. Basically received no steam. I mean, they're talking about like Josh Palmer still being in 3 receiver sets. Was the no steam summer for Quentin Johnston a mistake, or can he be ignored right now in redraft leagues and DFS?
Oh, I mean, in this sort of game environment, I think DFS wise, he makes a lot of sense as like a low price option who, like you said, was steamless, did not have the steam. So we're not coming into week one with everybody saying, oh, this is a great way to access this game. So I think maybe Quentin Johnston does profile as good in that way. And, we've heard this before with highly drafted rookie receivers where they struggle a little bit. Quentin Johnston had some drops and apparently catches with his body, according to my Twitter timeline. I don't really care about that, but so they say, well, Josh Palmer's the wide receiver 3. We've heard this stuff before. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, come on, long-term, even short-term, please. Quentin Johnston will be out there playing a good number of snaps, running a good number of routes. So I do think, if you're in a 12-team league with multiple flex spots, you maybe can find a way to put Johnston in here. The Dolphins secondary is terrible. Why are you guys laughing?
Well, Pat's I made a little face, then Pat made a little squeamish face and a little squeamish.
We were making faces at each other.
I think the concern is that just this week, he just does not run enough routes to be like relevant in a way that you can trust. Is that a guarantee? No, like he should be running 100% of the routes, and you don't want to see Josh Palmer out there. But like Palmer knows the system. He was a little productive last year. if we go out and we get like a 40%, 50% route rate and not good fantasy numbers from Quentin Johnston, like it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think not that this is like breaking news. Quentin Johnston does need to be 100% rostered. Like any first round receiver needs to be 100% rostered. Maybe even in a 10-team league, he needs to be rostered.
Probably
using him right now. Denny, you made an interesting point about the Dolphins secondary being bad. It's true, but I do wonder if the narrative will change quite quickly on the Dolphins defense with Vic Fangio, one of the very top defensive minds in the NFL, now calling the shots. And like maybe the nature of Dolphins games is just going to change this year. Hopefully not on offense, but I mean, Vic Fangio's track record is insane and pretty like underwhelming Broncos personnel. A lot of times he maintained an elite defense, the kind that he had with the Bears, that one Khalil Mack fueled year. The Dolphins defense will be an interesting thing to monitor.
I have the sense that the Dolphins secondary is so injury ravaged at the moment. With Ramsey out, they have some other very weak spots in that secondary that I do think that Herbert and the pass catchers here for LA have an enormous ceiling. Last year, Mike Williams caught 6 of 6 targets against the Dolphins for 116 yards. Keenan Allen caught 13 of 14 targets against these Dolphins. So you're playing all these guys and you're feeling good about it.
I was going to ask you guys, was going to try to get you to say on camera that Austin Eckler might be beginning to get washed, but we spent too much time on this game.
Well, real quick, because I was interested in this question. I was like, why is he asking this? But
it says, has Austin Eckler peaked is what I put on our show.
Yeah, sheet. So his yards per route run has fallen in each of the past 5 seasons, as has his yards per kill. I messed it up again.
Run it back.
Yards after contact per carry. There is some indication per the analytics that the gas tank is nearing empty for Austin Eckler.
I had noticed that, and just then the Kellen Moore effect. They did plenty of running back receptions on the Cowboys, but like I don't think he's not catching 100 balls again. And the efficiency has been slowly declining. I think it's going to be a more like intelligently designed offense. And that's going to mean fewer just pointless dump offs to Austin Eckler.
100%.
I wrote in the rankings, you're not going to notice it this week in this game environment, but something to keep in mind with Austin Eckler going forward. Something to keep in mind if you are still drafting this weekend, which a lot of you still are, is that the NFL season starts this week. We're talking about it right now. That means drafts still happening up until Saturday evening, and the Rotoworld Football Draft Guide is still there for you to purchase. It includes all the rankings, player profiles, and projections you need to win your league. Go to NBCSports.com/draft guide to get your guide now and use the promo code CHAMP23 to save 20% off at checkout and receive a $10 Fanatics e-gift card. That is promo code CHAMP23 at NBCSports.com/draft guide to save 20% and receive a $10 Fanatics e-gift card. Well, we're off to a roaring start. We spent 10 minutes in one game.
This is a good game, though. We got some
already sweating bullets. Adam's already sweating bullets. But we're here now to talk about a less good game, still an intriguing game. They're all intriguing in week 1 because we don't know anything about anyone, even though we spent the entire offseason pretending that we do. We actually don't know. I don't know why. So I don't like when fantasy analysts have that fatalism. We don't even know. We're just guessing. And that becomes like kind of like a macho thing by the end of summer. Like, just listen to your heart, man. Like, no, you should probably listen to some experts.
You go from the gut.
Yeah, you should probably listen to a few experts. But the Jaguars at the Colts. Trevor Lawrence begins his dark horse MVP quest as a comfortable road favorite, Kyle, against the rebuilding Colts. That's interesting, but the player we really want to know about is Anthony Richardson. Are we rolling with him right off the jump? Anthony Richardson, someone whose ADP never really took off, especially in like normie home leagues where he never got into the top 12. He wasn't the top 12 and underdog for a while. But can we trust Anthony Richardson right from the jump this season?
Yeah, you better believe it. Like the thing is, I think there's a reason to believe he could struggle. Like that could happen to start his career. It probably will. He had some touchy accuracy in college, to say the least. I don't care.
He was bad. He was bad. That's what the way they used to say it.
Yeah, they used to say that. We cleaned up the language on that one a little bit, and he still didn't look great. But I don't care. I just do not care. I was never drafting him for a single completed pass. I'm drafting him for 1,000 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. I think this offense under Shane Steichen is going to look a lot like the 2021 Eagles, which was balanced to a fault, but understandable in that they had Jalen Hurts coming off of, I think he had played like 2 or 3 games to close out the previous year. But he was like a relatively raw prospect who played in a very advantageous for him system, and it was unclear how that was going to pan out in the NFL. So they played balance, but they used his strengths so perfectly. He was second in the NFL in quarterback designed runs. He was first in the NFL in quarterback rushing expected fantasy points, like even beating out Lamar Jackson that year. And that's why he was an elite fantasy option. It wasn't because he was a great passer. He wasn't. He had work to do. We're going to get that with Anthony Richardson. We're also getting fantasy points because fantasy wasn't designed to handle dudes who play football like he will.
The good news, Anthony Richardson too was getting some the kind of hype you want to see from like the coaching staff and the press corps. Like he's playing the game pretty quickly. Like he seemed undaunted in Colts camp. Sometimes with the more inexperienced players, like the more true dual threats, you're like, oh man, they don't know what like a real offense even looks like. We weren't hearing that with Anthony Richardson. Again, the tape was interesting as a thrower, but just truly undeniable as a runner. And
the Colts are going to play fast. Like that's something we know. Like they played fast in the preseason. They'll probably be chasing points here. I get the sense this will be probably a Jacksonville blowout win. So, I mean, they're going to have to chase hard, and that's maybe fantastic for Anthony Richardson and maybe some ancillary pieces for the Colts. I mean, and not even ancillary. Pittman, maybe Pierce if he catches a long one, and then Josh Downs. A Colts beat writer said on Tuesday that there could be a steady dose of Josh Downs in the middle of the field in this game. If they're chasing points, that's great.
One reason they literally cut down to 3 receivers at the roster deadline. I'm sure they've added dudes and they'll call practice squad players up, but like they know Josh Downs is the guy for them. And it makes sense. They're a rebuilding team and they're not really even like pushing up against that in the sense of the way their roster is being built. That's great for Josh Downs. Like he actually could go out and play the full wide receiver 3 role. He won't be on for every snap. He'll come off when they move out of 11 personnel, but like, I was drafted. We still got, if you listen to the show right when it comes out, you've got a few hours of best ball left. Get some Josh Downs.
Yeah. One reason the Colts might get blown out, one reason they might have to play fast, because they're not going to have any running game whatsoever. They're going to have to rely totally on like short passing, maybe some of the run. Are there anyone in this Colts? I've seen some people steaming Deion Jackson. I've seen some people, aka us, steaming Evan Hull. Some people steaming Zach. No one's steaming Zach Moss, but he's healthy enough to be the early down guy, basically. Denny, you looked like you had some thoughts. Are you are we just staying away? Obviously, you can't stay away in DFS, but are we just staying away from the Colts backfield?
I mean, in redraft, I can't imagine someone feeling like hard pressed to figure it out. Like to be like, all right, like I think I figured out the Colts backfield and I'm going to play Evan Hull this week. We would like some data. We would like some tape. Okay. And I'll watch the dots. You guys watch the film and we'll know more, obviously a lot more by week 2. I'm not going to force the issue with the Colts running backs, especially because the rushing will come from Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, we just don't even really know where the touches are going to go. You might have a good guess, but we just don't even know where the touches are going to go. Any non-Ridley Jaguars wide receivers, I don't have Christian Kirk ranked as a wide receiver 3. I haven't ranked as a wide receiver 37. So he's literally one spot away from being ranked as a wide receiver 3. Are we in on any non-Calvin Ridley Jags wide receivers, especially in a game where they should just totally dominate the pace of play, time of possession, blah, blah, blah? Is anyone other than Calvin Ridley getting home this game this year, Kyle?
I feel like if you drafted Christian Kirk, you have to assume that like you are playing him if you drafted him. This isn't like a bad game. Like you said, it's probably a blowout win, but also they should put up points, which is something. It's not going to be a back and forth affair, but they should put up points. They shouldn't have a problem doing that, especially through the air. So if you drafted Christian Kirk,
why would you do that?
But that's the thing is I did not draft very much Christian Kirk. Maybe that was a leak on me because he's been like historically strong production, just nothing elite. And I think last year, the fact that we saw like Zay Jones and even like Marvin Jones in terms of air yards come dangerously close to Christian Kirk in terms of like the opportunities they saw, that tells me there's room for an alpha to eat Christian Kirk's lunch. So I don't have much Christian Kirk. I guess if I have him, I'm probably still playing him. But at this point, you probably have to play him too. But maybe don't draft him next time.
Don't draft him next time. The line I keep coming back to with like Christian Kirk and Zay Jones is they did their job last year, like to a shockingly good degree, but they have different jobs this year. It's just not going to be the same.
There you go.
They have different jobs for 2023. Denny Carter, the Atlanta Falcons host the Carolina Panthers in one of 2 sub-40 totaled contests this weekend. It's week 1, guys. Your offenses aren't supposed to be so bad that you're already getting a game total under 40 in week 1. We're not supposed to know that yet. What is most interesting about this game in Atlanta, Denny, that I did mention earlier, you've been dabbling in Bijan truthing. Maybe don't do that again.
You look, I asked you online why you had Bijan Robinson ranked ahead of Tyler Algier, and of course I am being facetious,
being persecuted for your beliefs.
I'm once again being attacked for my ideas, but I have to say that both Algier and Robinson are playable in this matchup.
Bijan is playable, folks. You heard it here first. Bijan Robinson was the number 8 overall pick. One of the best running back prospects of the past decade is playable.
Denny, it's week 1 and we already hate you. This is a problem for the podcast.
But just barely. Like, if you need a flex, you just put Bijan in there and forget about it.
I hate that show.
No, I mean, but Bijan's going to go crazy, and I'm going to be destroyed online, obviously. The Falcons in 2 games against the Panthers last year were minus 15% pass rate over expected in both games. Okay,
that's
in one of the
so bad
in one of those
for the
games,
non-nerd listeners. That's so much running. It is like the 50s are looking at this like, ooh, maybe you should ease up on that running a little bit.
Right, Sonny Jurgensen thinks that's a little much. And Wikipedia Zoomers. And then they had 37 rushing attempts in their Week 10 game against the Panthers. I think we could see something like that here. I do want to say my Bijan truth thing is more about like the rushing attempt split between him and Algier, which I believe there will be a split, but Bijan
I really don't think there will be. I'm not even trying to like argue, but it's like
I'm with Rotopat on this. Like
I really don't think there will be, because I know they had a committee the past 2 years. But he did not have a committee when he had the big dog known as Derrick Henry in Tennessee.
I know.
I think it was out of necessity. It is an interesting take because they're so run heavy. It is interesting too, though, because they're claiming that they understand they have to pass more. And Marcus Mariota is like historically bad, but Desmond Ridder could also be very bad.
Desmond Ridder is worse than Mariota.
No.
He is. Yeah, he way worse. And Ridder and Mariota was one of the worst in the league last year. Listen, but I think Arthur Smith is obsessed with this idea of Bijan Robinson as a pass catching weapon. And I think that he will more than get there for fantasy purposes because of that. I think that his pass catching involvement in this Atlanta offense is going to be stunning. It's going to start this week.
Interesting. By the way, why every passing clip like from the basically like Joe Namath era, they're always like 1 yard attempts, and they're always jump passes, and they're always incomplete. Just a little something I've noticed.
It's because the quarterbacks were 5'6".
Yeah, this is something I've noticed as a sports historian. We talk about Desmond Ridder, Denny claiming he's worse than Marcus Mariota. I don't know if anyone can be worse than Marcus Mariota was last year. Is there any way to support these pass catchers, man? Because Kyle Pitts' ADP remained top 8 easily at tight end. Drake London, who was amazing as a rookie, remained in the top 24 periphery. I mean, is this just totally aspirational still? I mean, the Falcons did put on a brave face. They're like, we have to pass more. But is there actually going to be the volume to support these 2 really, really good pass catchers?
I mean, they did pass a little more last year when they got Desmond Ridder under center. They were a little bit higher in pace, but I mean, it was still incredibly disappointing stuff if you're drafting these players. I think you have depending on how you draft them, I took a lot of both. I think they're both extremely good players, and I want good players on my teams, and maybe that's a bad take. Maybe you just want bad players.
Horrible.
But so I think
you want Tyler Algier too soon.
He's good. He's also good.
He actually is really good. That's why the Bijan pick didn't make any sense.
I know. It's crazy.
It's really good.
None.
So I think Ridder could be good. They could pass more. That could work out in your favor. Like they're definitely going to pass more. It's just what order of magnitude are they passing at? Are they going to have a minus 3 or 4% pass rate over expected? not bad compared to where they were last year.
Yeah,
or is it a nominal change versus last year? And Ritter, he's probably, I mean, what is he, third round quarterback? Most third round quarterbacks just aren't good. A lot of quarterbacks aren't good. So we could get there that way. I think the more likely outcome is that on any given week, one or two of these guys has like a 35 to 40% target share because they have truly no one else out there. And they're also going to use like multi-back sets. They're going to use a ton of 2 tight end sets, which makes it easier for the pass catchers. Like when Parker Hesse is your competition for targets on a given play, you are going to earn more targets on that play on average.
Yes, this is Mac Hollins' erasure. This is Mac Hollins being erased by Kyle Dvorchak. Do either of you have an answer on how to prioritize Panthers wide receivers? Adam Thielen not practicing on Thursday with an ankle.
No, this injury. Is quite literally the most obvious thing. Take the dude who's healthy and like 19 years younger than the other guys. Done.
Denny, anything to add? Anything to add on the Panthers receiver corps?
According to Rotoworld.com, it's a little site that I found recently. He didn't Thielen didn't practice Thursday, and it is just load management.
I thought it might just be load management. So we'll see. I love to have. I can't. How do I phrase this without it being?
Yeah. Wow. Could be bad.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. Please.
Love to have my reps managed in week 1 though.
Yeah. So you're saying, Kyle, you're just saying play Mingo.
Obviously, like. Why? What in God's name would possess you to play 46-year-old Adam Thielen?
What would possess you to play any of them? Why even play Jonathan Mingo in like a 12-team league? Like I feel like construction is pretty bad.
I actually think that the Atlanta defense is a good play. You know, for those who streaming defenses, I think this Panthers offense, Pat, you said it recently. It's probably the worst in the league.
I did rank them number 32. I ranked them number 32 in terms of overall offensive environment, just because the weapons are so
bad.
And Miles Sanders as your lead back is like not a great plan.
I think Bryce Young may be okay in the long term. Maybe
the whole plan is Bryce Young superstar mode. That's their plan.
That's not. He's going to throw.
The plan is 2025. Yeah. That's really the plan.
Yeah.
They need to hope they don't wreck Bryce Young these next.
If the Panthers fall behind, and by the way, the Panthers are 4-point dogs here in Atlanta. If they fall behind, I see Bryce Young throwing a bunch of interceptions.
The biggest game of week 1, the reconfigured New York Football Jets host the Buffalo Bills as around 2.5-point home favorites. Kyle, all the talk has been about Aaron Rodgers for many, many years. All the talk has been about Aaron Rodgers. But as was the case,
we're almost done.
As was the case in Green Bay, this is not a particularly deep pass catching core. It wasn't really supposed to be this way. Corey Davis retired. They signed Mecole Hardman and Al Lazard. It's this beyond Garrett Wilson. It's not a compelling group of players. This is Garrett Wilson or bust for the Jets skill players, not including the backfield, of course. Or is there another Gang Green, as they are known by the Zoomers, pass catcher you like in fantasy?
I mean, if I talked about this before. If you liked Alan Lazard going into week 1, you should probably play him. Now, why would you really do that? I don't know. It's not for me. I'm Garrett Wilson or bust by a pretty easy margin. I mean, you look at last year and like it hypothetically, it could have been a perfect setup for Alan Lazard in that he got to be a 4-time MVP quarterback's wide receiver 1. And instead he gave us 2 wide receiver 2 games and 2 wide receiver 1 games, which was the exact same amount of both that he gave us in the year before. It was no different. He had like a marginally higher floor. I think he got almost to 800 yards, but like, no, I'm not playing this guy.
Didn't counter take, right? Or
no.
Why? I just don't. Why would you draft Alan Lazard? Like Christian Kirk, I can understand why you draft him. Alan Lazard, like the snaps and targets are gonna be there. Just Alan Lazard is you let someone else draft.
My brain is programmed to actually not see Alan Lazard.
Mine is too. Yeah, it's basically like one of those like Chrome extensions has been put in my brain. I can't
see him. Don't see him. Sorry.
The words Alan Lazard. Neither did you.
Also, just zoom out a little bit. The Jets defense is really good. Their rushing attack will probably be pretty good. This is going to be a boring team for fantasy.
It's going to be a very boring team.
It's going to be horribly boring, maybe frustrating, even for Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson will score a bunch of touchdowns probably because Aaron Rodgers will throw it to him a bunch in the red zone and the green zone. That's great. I'm not saying that you made a mistake by drafting Wilson. You didn't. But man, you're not going to get much of anything else out of these receivers throughout the season.
It's the same thing from Green Bay too. Aaron Rodgers was the QB 11 when he won the MVP in 2021. They want balanced attack and they want efficiency.
Slow. At least if that carries over from Green Bay too, they were year in, year out, just the slowest paced team in the NFL. I think that's why like it is really useful for Garrett Wilson to be playing alongside de facto tight end Allen Lazard and real tight ends, and then like so close to being out of the league, Randall Cobb. Like,
oh man, come on, man. How is he not out of the league? But Denny and I,
in that he's old, he's still.
Denny and I, by the way, frequently accused of being boomers, and yet we have Chrome extensions directly implanted in our brains. Curious.
It's working out fine.
We're very, I know I'm not malfunctioning at all.
I haven't slept for 72 hours. Go ahead, Matt.
Breece Hall versus Dalvin Cook. What do we do for week 1? It's a very not simple situation. Breece coming back from a torn ACL.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook has barely practiced with his new team. What is the answer here, if any?
I mean, first of all, I think we need to pay close attention to the inactives for this game. I would not be surprised if one of them were inactive.
I think they'll both play, but I think you pay attention to the inactives about like, is Michael Carter and Bam Knight both active? Yeah. And if they're both active,
cut Bam Knight?
Did they cut Bam
Knight?
Knight?
They did. Yeah, they did.
They cut him and kept Izzy, and I'm not sure Izzy is super healthy right now.
Anyways, if there's a healthy scratched running back, that would be a sign that they at least have faith in one of Dalvin or Breece. But if both the backups are active, that's not good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, reportedly, Dalvin Cook is a full go against the Bills. So I guess you take that maybe with a grain of salt. For this game, it feels gross. But if I had to choose one, I would choose Dalvin Cook.
I would too, but I have them both outside the top 24. And man, I didn't know what they did to my boy Bam. That one hurts.
Yes.
That one hurts. Don't ever be on the road during cut down day for a variety of reasons.
You're right. There's no way to look it up after that, by the way.
No, there is not. There is not.
Well, if Pat had to look up every one of like his little pet players that he loves, he'd be spending so much time just Googling like Kenny Yeboah.
Kenny Yeboah, guess who's still on the Jets? Bam Knight. I actually have no idea if Kenny Yeboah made it. I'm assuming he did not.
Never even heard of him.
Kyle, are we running it back with Gabe Davis in 2023? He is healthy now. They didn't add any competition in the receiver core, really. Is
he good now? Because I'd love.
They added Dalton Kincaid.
Come on.
Are we running it back with Gabe Davis? Kyle Dvorchak.
I actually think I thought he's a fine season-long pick. I thought his ADP is probably where it should have been last year, in that we just placed such lofty expectations on this guy. I think it was a fine pick this year. I'm not sure week 1 is a particularly good spot. As Denny pointed out earlier, the Jets are just a complete stalwart defense. They're also really strong at not allowing big plays. They had the 3rd lowest rate of 1+ EPA plays allowed in the passing game. They just weren't getting beat big in the passing game. And that's the only way Gabe Davis gets home. He's not getting home with a 7-catch, 94-yard game and the PPR scams his way to a wide receiver 2 finish. He's getting home on 3 plays. And I don't think those plays are coming this week because the Jets are a good defense. So I just think Gabe's fine. Like when he goes out and doesn't do a ton this week, play him again next week. That's the Gabe experience. But maybe if you actually have a start-sit decision, this is a good one to sit on.
Yeah, horrible matchup. I do have to say, look, I'm obliged to say this on rotoworld.com. We have a report from a few months ago that says the Bills want to get Gabe Davis more involved in catch and run situations and shorter intermediate targets. I'm not sure that will come to pass. I think that's the area that Stefan Diggs will dominate, maybe even Dalton Kincaid. I do get that, but if there is any sort of change in usage for Gabe Davis, could be really good.
Seems like someone who specializes in scoring 75-yard touchdowns should be given the opportunity to get ahead of steam more often. So might read into that one too. Real quick, what do we need to see from James Cook? James Cook, I feel like, is one of the highest variance players for 2023. He could be like a 20-touch player, or is he just going to be like a 10-touch player, marginally more than he had last year? What the heck do we need to see from James Cook, who I just keep fearing is like a Chase Edmonds situation? I really hope that's not the case. What do we need to see from James Cook against the Jets?
Well, I would be broke. I would have to. I'd have to call my money manager. Yeah. So I really would be surprised if we get like a 10 touch game here from James Cook. I guess like if game script gets crazy out of hand, either way, then that could come to pass. But if it's fairly neutral throughout this game against the Jets, I think it's safe to project him for like 15 touches, maybe more. He just doesn't really have a ton of competition, and I'm not saying that he's going to get the goal line stuff necessarily. Okay, and like they have Latavius Murray for a reason. They have Damian Harris for a reason. They don't want Josh Allen throwing himself into linebackers at the goal line like he has in recent years. So I do think James Cook will be fun for PPR. I'm not sure he's going to like blow the roof off touchdown wise in this offense, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just trust.
89 carries in 16 games last year, where the only competition was Devin Singletary, man.
But the Singletary, the coaches love Singletary. Come on, give him a break.
Didn't love him not to bring him back.
It is bad when a rookie can't bang down the door to touches. It is always a bit of a red flag, I feel like, especially when you're trying to take them from Devin Singletary.
But have you considered that I'm excited about James Cook?
I'm excited about Cook too. I'm excited about James Cook too. Pat, you asked like, what do we need to see? Like, the goal line work is really what we need to see.
He's not going to get that.
I think he could though, because I think it could just be you put your best player on the field when it matters most. But
what's the lowest amount of touches you would be comfortable with from James Cook
in week 1?
Yeah,
12 if they were the right touches.
I'm gonna say 12 to 15. If he gets 12 to 15, then he's on a good path for the rest of the year. I would say if he gets 12 to 15 touches this game, 18 to 20 is not happening. He needs to get 12 to 15. I'm worried he could get like under 10.
It could happen. It could 100% happen. I agree.
That's not the most likely outcome, though. But we need 12
it's
to 15
not,
James Cook
but
touches.
I like what you said, that he is probably one of the most volatile picks. He could definitely be deciding.
He could be a league winner. He could be a league winner.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Buffalo beat writers have said that the team wants to emphasize getting the ball to Cook in the short areas, like getting Josh Allen out of these situations where he's hurdling over defenders and getting hit in the air and falling down on his leg in a way that makes you cringe. Like they don't want that.
The Ravens are week 1's biggest favorites with a monumental 10-point line over the road tripping Texans. Denny Carter, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are we about this rebuilt Baltimore Ravens offense?
I'm pretty excited. I think it'll work. Maybe it won't, be perfect every week, like we won't like see records broken or whatever. But I do think Lamar is more than capable of handling and operating in a more balanced offense, and that he still can be efficient in that offense. I think you're trying to start a lot of Ravens in this game. I mean, you're trying to start Bateman, Zay Flowers. I like Zay Flowers in this game. Maybe Odell, J.K. Dobbins. Like if you believe that this game is going to be a comfortable Ravens win, then they are going to shift to the run eventually, and that probably means inflated touches for Dobbins. So I do like him a lot.
We'll say Profiles is the kind of game where you want to get your Ravens in there, but the Ravens are one of the primary teams I feel like where we just need more information. We truly don't know how the target share is going to shake out. We don't know if J.K. Dobbins is going to be the third down back. Like, it's one of the biggest unanswered questions of the summer. And it's a team where I really, really need some more information. Kyle Dvorchak.
Was it the Dolphins, I think, that in Lamar's MVP season, their week 1 game?
Yes.
They nuked the Dolphins.
They nuked a few teams early last year, too. They're always big on the early season nukings.
Yeah. But that year specifically, because we didn't know what we were going to get from Lamar, and we got it all in that game. And this Texans defense is the perfect team to give us that type of game. Like, they got gashed on long plays last year. Bateman looked really strong as like an outside deep threat last year, and then he gets hurt, and Lamar gets hurt. Like, this is the type of game where maybe it even sets our expectations too high, but I'll take that because I drafted a lot of these Ravens.
To survive a Ravens nuking, by the way, get inside before the fallout comes down and stay inside for 24 hours. Do not view the blast.
Right. Or like Indiana Jones did, get into a refrigerator.
Get into a fridge. The Zoomers truly will not know.
Unfortunately, the Zoomers only know this reference.
Oh,
it's true. That's all they even know about Indiana Jones. They don't know all the bad stuff he did in the 80s. They only know the fridge thing. There's only one. So a team where we need more information is the Texans receiver core. We just don't really know how that's going to shake out at all either. I mean, people kind of coalesced around Nico Collins to end the summer, even though he's never been good in the NFL. And Tank Dell was good, but he might not even be ahead of Robert Woods. We need a lot more information on how the targets are going to shake out for the Texans. Do we have any Dameon Pierce worry? People were trying to create Dameon Pierce worry near the end of the summer. Kyle, I see you making a face. I take it we do not need any. We need Dameon Pierce worry in a game where he's a 10-point road underdog. But in general, do we need any Dameon Pierce worry?
Yeah, the second part you said is true. Like, he was not a particularly good pass catcher last year. He started to get more pass catching work, but he was just very poor in yards per route run. And they used him in the preseason as if he's going to play every snap. Obviously, that won't happen, but I do think he has true bell cow potential. It's just that being on the field for passing down snaps isn't the same as being a good pass catcher, and we haven't seen that from him yet. I still think he'll be out there and should get some scammy PPR points, but this is a tough spot. Like, when you're 10-point dogs, it is not a good spot to be a back whose primary attribute is his between the tackles work. So yeah, this is not a great spot for him, but the external factors of like his role within the team, that still looks to be, I don't have any reason to doubt that. I was not drafting him much early in the summer, and that was just like a leak. I think he does have true bell cow potential on a bad team. This is not going to be a great team, but this is not the best game for him. It looks like a good season for him, though.
His floor is a potential disaster here. Only saw 5 or more targets in 4 of his 13 games as a rookie. Like Kyle said, he's not really good at catching the ball. I don't think like I said, I don't think they brought in Devin Singletary to sit on the sideline and say, hey, way to go, Dameon. I think Singletary will get a good amount of playing time here.
I will just say, kind of agreeing with both of you, we're not going to know the story of Dameon Pierce's 2023 based on this game, unless it's the kind of thing where he takes over and looks elite and looks like he's taken a step forward. But we're not going to know the story of his 2023 from this game. We will be right back after this. The season kicked off when Patrick Mahomes and the Super Bowl champion Chiefs hosted the Detroit Lions on a little network you may have heard of called NBC on Thursday. But don't forget about Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys taking on Saquon Barkley and the Giants on Sunday evening. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. And don't forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. Bears Packers is oozing with quarterback storylines. None of them really that great, actually. Can this guy throw? Can this guy throw? Real interesting, kind of crazy stuff, kind of questions you wish the teams had already had answered. But Kyle, the big news of the week is Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs's like mystery hamstring injuries. What in the world is going on? Tell the folks what is going on. And I assume the Packers passing attack is a full fade in a game where the total is bouncing around in the low 40s.
Yeah, we had Wednesday. I haven't seen the practice reports yet today, but Wednesday we had both Dobbs and Watson sit out of practice. Watson last year really struggled to stay healthy. When he was on the field, it was dynamite, but we saw time and time again, he did struggle to stay healthy. Not the best sign that he pops up with the hamstring injury that was completely unreported up until this point. I had never heard of it. I didn't see anywhere else that had. I mean, the fact that there was so little reporting makes me think it's minor, but is that even like, I don't know, that's just complete vibes based that like, if it was a major injury, we probably would have found out. Now, could it sideline in week 1? I guess, but I will say if he plays, I want to play him. This Bears defense, no good. They are simply not good at defending teams passing the football. Even if Jordan Love isn't great, that's probably the most likely outcome. I don't really care. Watson is really good, and he did dominate the targets in the air yards last year down the stretch. And this Bears defense was, I believe, dead last in EPA per play allowed through the air. It's a good matchup. So low total. I'm not digging into Dobbs even if he plays. I'm not digging into like a Darnell Mooney on the other side. But start the studs at least. Especially it's easier for the Packers, where I know they'll have some floor of passing volume in that the Bears could throw the fewest amount of passes in week 1. They can do that a lot of weeks. I mean, they did last year a ton of times. I'm sure they did. They were only them and the Falcons.
You would think that's not the plan for 2023 after their offseason personnel moves, but it also could still be the plan if Justin Fields hasn't made the necessary progress.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're still going to be increased passing volume, but it's the kind of passing that we're talking about. Last year Fields led the league in passes over, the rate of passes over 10 yards and 20 yards, was last or near last in the league in passes at the line of scrimmage. I think we could see more of the latter, and I think that could actually be really good for Khalil Herbert and DJ Moore.
And hopefully, if they keep the downfield targets, they're just of much higher quality. DJ Moore can do damage all three levels of the field. Chase Claypool, of course, can do damage deep. Darnell Mooney is one of the better, like, pure deep threats in the entire league. You would just like to think the entire operation will be better, but it just comes down to, can Justin Fields make these throws in the NFL?
Didn't look good in the preseason. Looked real bad.
No, it didn't. And but by the way, Christian Watson, man, it's just so bad coming off. Getting a DNP coming off the summer, that's just never, ever a good sign. Where the heck did that come from? Which Bears running back, by the way, did we – it feels like the fantasy community settled on Khalil Herbert. Is that cut and dry, or is that really just kind of us taking a guess?
I mean,
I
think
feels
it's
cut.
fair.
I don't know if it's dried yet. It feels rather cut, though. I mean, last or in the preseason, we saw both of the first two games. I believe it was all Khalil Herbert with the starters. If they had played longer, I'm sure we would have seen more of the backups. But I know one of them was both the Khalil Herbert and DJ Moore super long plays. So those the starters played 2 drives and they played like 6 plays or something. So our sample size is quite limited. In that third game, they did mix in all of the guys a little bit more. But in totality, it did look like Deonta Foreman was a clear backup. Khalil Herbert was the starter. Herbert hasn't ever been much of a pass catcher. He profiles as the shifty, smaller type of guy who would. That's not really how he's been used. So I think there's some room for Roschon Johnson to come in on passing downs. With a mobile quarterback, how much target volume does that even equate to? To me, it's Khalil Herbert or bust in this backfield for now. Maybe it develops into a full-blown committee, at which point I'm probably just playing no one. But yeah, I guess to me, stash Roschon. I'm not even rostering Deonta. Khalil Herbert's startable. He's very startable this week. We could be wrong. I still think, like you said, I said it's cut, it's not dry. We could be wrong, but I am leaning heavily towards a good workload for Khalil Herbert in week 1.
I think you broke it down perfectly there. The Cincinnati Bengals hit the road to face the Cleveland Browns as 2.5-point favorites in 2023's what did I write here? Whatever. It's a battle of Ohio. Is the point. Denny, we love the Bengals, but it is the Browns who are looking to get reestablished in 2023. Will this offense look like the 2022 Browns, not good, or the 2020 Houston Texans?
No. Well, I don't think either, if that's the choice. I don't think from everything I've read about how the Browns will operate this year, it will be more open, more friendly to the pass, to Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. But Watson will still be playing within the structure of Kevin Stefanski's offense and won't be allowed or simply just won't do the sort of freelance stuff that he did 3 seasons ago. And it's a while when you're talking about a quarterback's lifespan in Houston. So I don't think that's coming back. Like 2020 Houston's not coming through that door, as the kids would say. But also I think they could be better than last year. I also think that there's potential for just struggle here. It feels
there is disaster potential.
It feels like this Watson thing, this Stefanski thing. It just feels like square peg in a round hole situation.
Stefanski feels like he's just not modifying the system enough. Where we saw how poorly he went last year. That's one thing to do at mid-season, but there were a lot of reports over the summer like, man, the Browns offense just looks terrible today, like in practice against like the Browns defense. And you would like to think a smart coach, a smart guy would figure this stuff out, but it does seem like he is trying to square a peg into a round hole.
And I think that Stefanski did brilliant work with Baker Mayfield. And he made Mayfield work
too.
So you don't come back from that. Once you have success with bad quarterbacks, it seems like you don't come back from that. You become addicted to it. Like Kyle Shanahan says, absolutely addicted. We tried. I gave Trey Lance 2 career starts. We tried. And, we played him 6 quarters, and we just found out we had to go back to Brock Purdy. We just had to do it.
These type of coaches don't want a good quarterback.
They want someone that can be managed and manipulated. Yeah, they don't want someone who can freelance and make amazing plays for some reason. They want to be in the palm of their coach's hand.
Yeah.
Kyle, do we care about any non-Amari Cooper Browns pass catcher or David Njoku? Do we care about Elijah Moore? Do we care about Donovan Peoples-Jones? Do we care about, say his name, Cedric Tillman?
Don't care about Cedric Tillman yet. I don't think he sees many snaps. I don't hate stashing him. It has to be a deep league, though, honestly, to stash him. So for your regular 12-team league, don't worry about that guy. DPJ, again, it's like week 1. You don't have any buys. And, I mean, if you had Cooper Kupp, just hang up the gloves. You're like, it's already lost. Who cares? But, sorry, man. So, not everyone can win. No, not everyone can win. And if you drafted Cooper Kupp, you're probably one of the not winners. So you probably don't need to dig deep enough to get to like a DPJ, or you're probably starting Elijah Moore. But for me, actually, I'm going to take DPJ until Elijah Moore proves it, because he was so dreadful last year. And he was strong as a rookie, but it wasn't like he came out and went for 1,100 yards and we knew he was a certified stud right away. He flashed as a rookie, but I'm not going to say he immediately cemented himself as like a clear NFL starter. Last year's DPJ season was better than anything Elijah Moore's put on the field. And I think Elijah Moore is probably the one who comes off when they move into like 12 personnel look. So to me, I think Elijah Moore is probably a bit overdrafted given what we can expect from DPJ. Maybe we were admittedly drafting him based on the ceiling potential. But I think the week 1 projection is going to favor DPJ in this one.
By the way, we put on the cover of our magazine, Cooper Kupp back on top, question mark?
No, the answer was no.
I think we've already gotten an answer. And I do have 0 Kupp shares in, quote, managed leagues.
That's good.
More and more people are talking about my targets cliff theory that was raised on one of the Train podcasts. And sure, it was raised completely as a joke, and I was not being serious. But now that it's true, I believe in it. There's a targets clip. And,
here's the thing. It's a shotgun approach to takes, right? Where you just blast a bunch of them out, and eventually one will hit, and you say, yeah, I said that. That's right.
There's a targets cliff, just like a running back touches cliff. The Philadelphia Eagles arrive in Boston, Massachusetts as surprisingly light road favorites at 4 points. Kyle Dvorchak, what is the most interesting thing about this game, and why is it the Eagles' backfield?
No, you're right. The Eagles are predictable. We know, even like stylistically, it's easy to see the games where they're going to drop back and just throw nukes over their opponents, like these beautiful AJ Brown deep 30-yard, 40-yarders. And it's easy to see games where we know that they can beat their opponents on the ground. I think, to me, the difference now is that we don't know which back is going to be that when, they're going to run all over this team. It's a 30 total carries type of game. We have no clue how it splits out. I will say all summer, a lot of people said, I don't know who it is, but I know that the winner is going to be super valuable for fantasy. We are very much in the potential of true 3-back committee. They don't throw to the backs very much, and their goal line back is the quarterback. There are no winners. So to me, that scary scenario is at least fascinating from a morbid curiosity of, I drafted a lot of these guys. What if my theory of one of them has to be a winner is not true? That is very possible that is the case. So the backfield is it. And it's mostly that if one guy doesn't at least find goal line or pass catching work, or a lot of between the tackles work, there actually could be no, quote, winner from a fantasy we care about it perspective.
That's, Kyle, thank you for saying that. That's kind of where I landed by, late August, finally, where I said, who cares about the Philadelphia backfield? Who cares? I don't care about any of them. They're not going to do anything. Nobody's going to do anything. Rashad Penny's going to have an 80-yard run one week, and everybody's going to say, he's the one, and he's not. And Kenny Gainwell's going to catch 4 passes one, and he's not going to be the one either. It doesn't matter. Just you get Hurts, Goddard, Brown, and Smith, and that's it.
I think you guys are depressingly on point with that analysis. Do we care about any New England Patriots pass catcher, by the way? Any at all?
No.
I mean, no. I'm
pretty safe.
My best ball teams care about 20th round Devontae Parker, but
no.
Yeah. Good to see he's already limited in practice.
I know.
I mean, it is Hunter Henry season.
Hunter Henry. That's one because tight end is very ugly, and if you really punt it on tight end, yeah.
Man, Bill Belichick, he's just going to try to make a Mike Gesicki season, perhaps. Since he's the softest player in the league, Bill's like, I'm going to make this guy tough, and I'm going to prove people.
He's not going to succeed, is the thing.
No, he's not. And he'll give up on that plan after 2 weeks. But
Gesicki will be inactive by
maybe week 1. I mean, any of us be surprised if we're in the Slack we'd be like, holy bleep, lol, Mike Gesicki, healthy scratch.
That's happening.
It is happening. Kyle, can you get ?
Oh, yep, that's it. Nope, you got it. There it is.
I'm too busy. Can you get?
I'm too busy showering.
Yeah, I'm showering once again right before the show starts. And this week's upset waiting to happen, the Minnesota Vikings play host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as 5.5-point home favorites. Denny, are we crazy to be pushing this storyline? You and I have just become convinced that the Tampa Bay Bucs, if maybe they won't outright beat the Vikings, it certainly feels like a cover waiting to happen to me. And this seems like Todd Bowles is going to have Kirk Cousins in jail. Why do we think this? Are we dumb?
Well, I think actually it could kind of maybe go back and forth here.
We did wonder about a sneaky shootout too. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see it being like a Cousins collapse. In fact, I think Cousins could be quite a nice play here against probably a bad Tampa defense. But the Vikings defense is also bad. And I actually had a very respectful Vikings fan at me on Elon's site, and he said, here are the changes we made to defense. And it was like a list of like 9 or 10 things that the personnel changes.
Doesn't matter. Might kind of matter. Won't matter whatsoever. Could matter in week 6. I just went through all those.
That's exactly it. And respectfully, because honestly, this guy is very polite about it. It doesn't matter. So, I like this game. I like it from a DFS standpoint. Obviously, I'm playing Justin Jefferson DFS. I'm not talking about that, but I do think Godwin has some nice prospects for this game. Maybe Rashad White from a PPR standpoint. I think the Bucs will be live in this game.
I do too. And by the way, I think the Bucs, not a great defense, but they have a lot better defensive personnel than the Vikings, I think. And I just think the entire identity, we know the entire identity of this team will be changing without Tom Brady. And the focus is going to be just fully back on being defense first, run the ball first. If we can hit some big plays to Mike Evans, fine. We'll check down to Chris
if that's
Godwin.
the case, they're getting blown up. Like they are going to.
Not by Kirk Cousins, man.
Kirk is fine.
Still. I'm a hater still.
Kirk's a top 25, top 30 quarterback in the world.
Kirk is throwing at least 2 picks in this game. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Also 360 yards. That's also what he's
that's why great QB 13 again. Congratulations. Yeah. Amazing stuff. Really amazing stuff being the QB 13 when you have the best wide receiver on the planet. Not at all underachieving. I
wanted to quickly mention that the Chiefs just activated an emergency tight end to their active rosters.
Yeah, they called up the guy from the practice squad. I've never heard of him. He's
Travis Kelce is not looking great for Thursday night.
Very few people, unfortunately, were able to hear this before Thursday night. Again, the game's already happened. Jahmyr Gibbs, 169 yards receiving.
Right. I forgot. Sorry. My bad.
Where did you guys end up this summer on Alexander Madison? I'm just trashing Kirk Cousins based with like no stats or anything whatsoever. Where did we end up on Alexander Madison? Well, again, one of the summer's most polarizing ADPs, understandably so, a confusing situation. Seemed like they wanted a number 2 back to maybe kind of force a committee, but it's unclear if that actually happened or not. Ty Chandler, I guess, is the number 2. Where did you guys end up landing on Alexander Madison? What are realistic expectations for Alexander Madison?
I should say the only exposure I have to Madison is in best ball before Dalvin Cook was officially shipped out of town. Okay. After that, I was completely out on him. I think, like it's one of the only edges left in fantasy football is like trying not to overvalue early season volume. And that's what we'll get with Madison. He might look nice, like a nice little pick in the first 2 or 3 weeks. But this thing where like a veteran backup is pushed into a starter's role and a workload and everything. It doesn't work like that. Like,
very rarely works, especially at running back. I'm a firm believer in that. Like, if you're good, you're going to force touches during your rookie contract. And
exactly.
He just never did that.
Yeah. Can I tell you what this is, guys? And maybe the Zoomers won't remember. This is a Toby Gerhart situation.
Oh, buddy. Toby Gerhart strikes right at the heart of like middle school, Kyle.
Yeah.
Those were dark days. Very dark days.
We were drafting him in the 6th round and be like, yo, yeah, we got the workhorse for the Jaguars.
The Jaguars have still not recovered from that.
Come on.
I was going to say more recently, who was the Falcons back who was like a 5th round pick, and he was the Panthers back who filled in for McCaffrey.
Oh, Mike Davis.
Mike Davis. I kept wanting to call him Malik Davis. I knew that wasn't right.
So Mike Davis is a great example, Kyle. Also, Justin Forsett for the Ravens a few years back, where it was
Justin horribly awry.
This is come on, guys.
We got to move on from this segment because I could do this for 30 minutes.
We could be remembering guys for a while.
Listen, we know how this goes, and it's not great for Madison drafters.
It's not great for Madison drafters. Not great whatsoever for Brock Purdy as he looks to prove that he's actually good as he's traveling across the country for week 1. This was really honestly kind of mean by the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, this is the 49ers last year. They sent the 49ers to Chicago in like week 1 or 2. It was like already horrible weather in Chicago. They lost. I think it was the game where Trey Lance got injured. Niners going cross country.
It was like hurricane game.
It was like hurricane.
You could not see the field.
It was absurd.
So wet.
This is totally absurd. The 49ers are being forced to travel across the country again to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're only 2.5-point favorites. I feel like it's just mean to a team from the Western time zone. But Kyle, 49ers and fantasy managers, even if they don't roster Brock Purdy, have a lot riding on him because of the weapons at his disposal. Is this experiment going to hold together? We've spent a lot of time like kind of making fun of this situation, like truthing Brock Purdy, but like looking like seriously at it. What do you think the odds of success are with this Brock Purdy experiment?
Like 75? I mean, it crushed at the end of last year, and that was in like relatively bad circumstances. Like the receiving core, specifically Debo, wasn't healthy for the entire time. It was coming in as the 3rd stringer in like, I think he didn't even get his first start. Like he came in the middle of a game. It was actually kind of early, I think. Early in a game, mid-season, absolutely crushes all the way until the unfortunate injury. But then ever since then, it has been all systems go as far as the injury is concerned. His timeline initially was like, oh, we don't know if we'll play in week 1. And then he was cleared well in advance of that. There's been not a single sort of sentiment that he doesn't look back to full strength, and even played in the preseason. So he was successful last year. It's a system that we know elevates its players and specifically its quarterbacks so well. So it shouldn't be surprising that he was successful last year. He appears healthy. The team was clearly satisfied with both his progress and his play last year because they got rid of their 1st-round quarterback and they let the other guy walk too. So to me, yeah, I think it looks pretty likely to work out well. I think the only thing from a fantasy angle is we know Kyle Shanahan is like dogmatically balanced in terms of just his run pass splits, and he's a good running team. So it's an excuse. It's not a good excuse, but it is an excuse. I can see why you could rationalize it that way. There will be frustrating weeks where George Kittle goes out and gets 3 targets. That's just the nature of playing on a team where you have the best pass catching back, one of the best after the catch receivers, and another really strong receiver in Brandon Ayuk. It's going to frustrate you, but I don't think there's ever a week in which I'm benching these guys unless a clear long-term trend of like, oh, Ayuk is being phased out appears. They're going to find big spike weeks, each of them.
Dogmatically balanced is the best description ever for Kyle Shanahan.
Really
Thank you for that, Kyle.
The
Purdy thing, yeah, I mean the Purdy thing will probably work out. I feel like nationally there's a little too much confidence in it working out. I saw on a certain 4-letter network this morning that 4 of the 5 panel members pick the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl.
I'm seeing that everywhere, and
that is oof.
Kyle's right. It was like there was a good floor, and he kept his weapons afloat. But he never had like a ceiling game. Brock Purdy. Does Brock Purdy have any ceiling, or is this like just Jimmy Garoppolo again? Where the 49ers have been on this hamster wheel forever, where they knew they needed a quarterback with actual ceiling. That's why they traded up for Trey Lance, and they gave up on that after the 10 minutes. And now they're back on whatever. Let's just get through the season with Brock Purdy, and you'll see what happens then in the postseason. Oh, then his elbow exploded in the postseason. And great. So what was all that for? What did we really learn here, folks? And as we all know, the meme about the dropped Purdy picks, it was a meme because it was true, man. He was running as hot. Like he had an angel on his shoulder for a lot of this stuff. And the film is out now. The book is out. Mike Tomlin's the first to read it. I 70% feels fair, but man, I'm leaning into that 30% that Brock Purdy.
That's fine. I get it. Cause and I mean, I think the ceiling is only probably Jimmy plus, and Jimmy plus can win a Super Bowl, but should that be your Super Bowl winning strategy when you know you're going to get there and face either Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or you'll be stopped by Jalen Hurts along the way? or Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. Like, it probably can't be your plan over a long sample, but it could get you there. It literally got Jimmy there. And I think there's a decent chance Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy. His stats were really similar last year, but like I said, he was put in a bad spot.
That's true. That's a good outcome for Brock Purdy too. I mean, I don't think it's the outcome the 49ers really need to become like a true championship team. They're just missing that one piece. They have been for years. But it would still be a good outcome to be Jimmy plus.
I just wanted to note, watch the weather in this Pittsburgh game. It's supposed to be torrential downpours.
Dude.
And then by halftime, it gets below 30.
Pennsylvania, man, October, it's like September 10th. Like, can't you just have nice weather for one game?
So anyway, if it's forecasted for something horrific like last year for the Niners opener, just maybe be careful with the pass catchers in this game.
Really quick, Denny, Ayuk versus Debo. Debo still? I never knew what to do with Debo all summer in rankings and drafts. I just did not ever know what to do with Debo.
I don't have like a super strong concrete take on Debo except for the splits with and without McCaffrey. They're not good with. I don't really know what to say beyond that. Like, Ayuk is probably the one I would want out of those two, and Debo is still a really cool player and might get a little dual threat action, but the days of him like serving as like the running back and the short area receiver and everything, those are over.
We've run out of time about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just tough matchup for the Steelers. Nick Bosa has reported a lot of interesting players in the Steelers. We'll see if any of the summer hype can translate. If even 60% of the summer hype transfers to a game against the 49ers, it'll be a very good sign for the Steelers offense going forward. But we'll have a lot more to talk about in week 2, I'm assuming, with George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Kenny Pickett, the Steelers backfield. They're another team where I just really, really, really want to see some regular season action. Excuse me. The Titans arrive in New Orleans, Louisiana as 3-point underdogs. Denny Carter. Are we expecting material Saints improvement with Derek Carr under center this year, or just more of the same? They're hanging around in every game. They don't score 30 points that much. They're not that fun to watch. Are we expecting material change to the Saints offense?
I think the character of the team will remain largely the same because Dennis Allen, the head coach, he likes a boring game. Like he doesn't want to win by too much. He doesn't want to lose by too much, and he will adjust accordingly. I do think that the pace of the Saints offense we could see it pick up just because they might have some extra confidence in Derek Carr compared to what they had last year under center. And so that could be good. And honestly, we probably need that. I know Kyle is bullish on Olave and I have been too, but we probably need that pickup in pace and more snaps, more offensive snaps for New Orleans for Olave to really justify his ADP. We'll see if we get it here against what should be a pretty poor Tennessee secondary.
Kyle Dvorchak, will Treylon Burks or DeAndre Hopkins score more fantasy points this season for the Tennessee Titans? Treylon Burks is practicing in full for week 1 with his knee injury.
DeAndre Hopkins, but I think drafters were overconfident in Hopkins outscoring Burks. I think Burks, going where he went after it seemed like, the injury was very scary. And as you said, he just practiced. Like it's over. He's healthy, at least very close to it. Like we have gotten through that storm. Burks was a really strong pick after he fell because of the injury. And I think Hopkins most times, but 60% of the time outscores him. That was not reflected in their ADP. I think Burks has a strong shot, stronger than other people believe, to outscore Hopkins.
I think Hopkins could have a Julio season with the Titans where the bottom totally falls out. He was
still really good last year. But, I mean, like, the age cliff comes for everyone.
It's been coming for him. He's been dabbling with the age cliff for 2 or 3 years.
2 years ago.
Including having a steroid suspension mixed in there.
Yeah. 2 years ago, I thought he was done. I did not think he would come back and look as completely on point as he did last year. He did, but like there was a world in which he doesn't look as on point, and it is over.
It could be over. We'll see. The Sean Payton era begins with the Broncos operating as 3.5-point home favorites against, I had to put this word in there, I had to editorialize, the pathetic Raiders.
God.
Kyle, what will you be focusing on in Raiders at Broncos?
Give me some of that good Russell Wilson stuff. I love drafting me some Marvin Mims. I know, Pat, you said that like Judy fell to a point where he seemed like a decent value. I love getting some Javonte Williams, but like I think this should be another one where I kind of mentioned the Ravens is like, I don't know if we'll learn the most about them because it's just such a good spot. This is also quite the spot. This team was second to last in EPA per play allowed through the pass last year. I believe they allowed the 8th most explosive plays. They were ranked 31st in PFF's secondary ranking, like secondary is in like the secondary of the defense rankings heading into the season. This is a good spot for us to recapture some of the Russell Wilson magic, even if it's maybe not all there anymore. So I think we could be treated to a good one if we literally just get a competent coaching staff. And I think we're getting that. Like, there was nothing in the offseason to suggest that Peyton isn't like taking this seriously, trying to cut out the mistakes. Like, I don't think it's a Urban Meyer situation. I'm kind of optimistic for this game. Maybe they play balanced and Russell Wilson doesn't have the juice all season, but this should be a pretty good one, I feel like.
Guys, it's Javonte Williams season. I'm here to tell you that.
Also good for me.
Yeah, no, it really is. Peyton said this week that Javonte will play a, quote, big role in this week's game against the Raiders. Raiders were bad against the run last year. I actually think this will be an absolute rout for the Broncos.
Oh, let's go.
It will be.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing the Broncos defense with extreme confidence. I think they will swamp Jimmy G in this game early and often. So I think that with that positive game script, I think they are going to establish the hell out of it, and that's going to be great for maybe P. Ryan and Javonte.
I will just I felt weirdly destabilized by that Jaleel McLaughlin report because I had literally never heard of him, and then we got up a blurb like some random guy is supposedly going to have a role in the Broncos backfield. And Sean Payton is one of those guys where like you just don't believe he's Pete Carroll level where like you just ignore everything he says. To him, I say he's gonna have a big role. You don't think 6 to 8 touches is a big role? Like I thought that was big.
He's not seeing.
You don't think? What?
I'm saying.
You clearly don't know ball because punt gunner is a big role.
Yeah,
that is an important role to the team.
Sean Payton is someone where like words have no meaning. Like what's
I see, yeah.
When he says them, like it has no. So then, like coach, you said he's gonna have a big role. And like what again? Yeah, you don't think 6 touches is big? Those are some of the 6 biggest snaps in the entire game. You don't think that's a big role? And then the reporter's just like sitting there awkward, like kind of looking at his shoes.
Man,
and we expected a bigger role, coach. I don't know.
ESPN had a great profile of Sean Payton, and I am convinced he is the least happy person in the NFL.
He is. This is a total paycheck job for him. So hopefully,
I mean, he hates his life right now.
Really quick, I put.
I don't think he likes Russell Wilson either. He does not seem like Russ.
Doesn't like the city of Denver. He needs to be somewhere where he can fish. I mean, you can do some cool fishing in the Rockies, actually. But Jacoby Myers, I mean, do we care about this? Anybody care about this? You guys talk about this?
I don't.
Jay Leno's falling asleep. Jacoby Myers.
He's fine. I feel like it's a bit early in the season. Your team needs to have one player on bye to be playing Jacoby Myers, but maybe you have really good running backs, in which case it's an acceptable thing to do.
We'll see. Hopefully, this don't ruin Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. Raiders.
Yeah, right. That's the hope here. Yeah.
Just don't. You can go 4-13. We don't care about that. Just don't ruin Josh Jacobs. Don't ruin Davante Adams. The New York Football Giants play host to the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock. Dallas arrives in New Jersey as 3.5-point favorites. Denny Carter. Mm-hmm. We have established that we are not scared of Mike McCarthy's big running game talk. Correct. We talked about this in the podcast several times. Where he's trying to like scare everyone. They're going to become a fire and brimstone team. Like the run is just so integral to this team. After we let Ezekiel Elliott walk and then didn't replace him with anyone other than like plumbers and grocery baggers. No offense to
Deuce Vaughn.
No, sorry, I mean true, but like we think this is all talk, correct? With the
it is. Look, this team is built to throw. Like, it doesn't matter what McCarthy says about, like, we need to rest our defense, all that nonsense. Look, they're going to throw a lot. Tony Pollard is not a high-volume back and won't be this year. And he could still get, by the way, no, that's not happening, okay? Not going to be high volume. He's still really good. He's going to have a lot of cool long runs. I know he's on the cover of our magazine. Thank you.
Come on. Where's your
Look at it.
Where's Denny? I thought you worked for NBC. Huh? Where's your mag?
I do, and I love.
Denny, how could we put something on the cover of the magazine and it go poorly? I just can't imagine. Oh, hold on.
No, that didn't. Kyle, I actually not kidding. I contend that did not. We were one of the only people even asking like if it was a question. I was like, yeah, Cooper Kupp is to come back and nuke again, and we were like, what if he doesn't?
Did we ask that? I guess there literally is a question mark on it. You're right.
A question mark. What do you think that means?
So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of passing. I do think you're starting. I think you're starting Brandon Cooks if you drafted him, and I know how you feel about him, Pat. But I think that Jake Ferguson, it makes for a really, really nice streaming play if you didn't go in on tight end.
Tony Pollard had 193 carries last year. If he can get to even 220, I think that's like a really, really big win and almost guaranteed to be a top 5 back. Like almost guaranteed. Sure.
Whatever.
Sure. Kyle, are there any Giants pass catchers worth caring about beyond Darren Waller?
Darren Waller. But no, I mean,
very quickly.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think we see a consistent enough usage or even roles for these guys where like it's very possible that they're using 2 tight end more than we expect. It's very possible that, Paris Campbell's a slot and he gets a lot of targets when he's in the slot and then he gets subbed out for Jalen Hyatt or something. Or like, I think it's a pretty strong chance we don't see Hyatt much early in the season, but as soon as he comes out and takes like a 30% snap share, that kills at least one of the other players because you need these guys as in they're just not strong target earners. You need them to be on the field for essentially every play. So no, and this is a bad spot too against a really strong Dallas defense. Maybe in a shootout potential coming down the road, you're like, I'll take a stab on Darius Slayton or pick your guy. Who cares? This is not the week to be doing that.
Yeah, Slayton. I mean, Slayton had a 35% air yard share. I did want to mention that in last season. Once he actually got to play, which was week 5. So that's not nothing. I think that he could be somewhat useful if the Giants have to chase points here. But all indications are that the Giants are going to have a run-heavy attack here, and throughout the season, they were among the run heaviest teams last year. And now that we're in the regular season, guys, I can finally say it. We have a run funnel defense in the Cowboys. Big time run funnel last year. Not a lot of reason to think that that'll change this year. It's 100 carries for Saquon Barkley this week.
Yeah, depending on your games threshold, by the way, Daniel Jones finished as like the QB 13 or 14. In fact, so there's kind of a perception, Daniel Jones took a big step forward, which is true. He's taking a step forward from being one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. But do we think he's already at his ceiling and there's not really another step for him to take, especially just considering the lack of passing game weapons at his disposal?
I said this last year. He should be better than last year. Like his receivers were just a complete mess of guys who they claimed Isaiah Hodgins or they got Isaiah Hodgins after the Bills cut him. They add Jalen Hyatt to the mix. They add Darren Waller, who's a de facto wide receiver 1 for this team. Like you said, they're still far from an elite receiver core, but I think it is meaningfully better in a way that will help him and also will allow them to throw deeper. He had one of the shallowest ADOTs in the entire NFL. He doesn't want to
do it. Denny, I've already established that he doesn't want to do that. He never will. Daniel Jones will, quote, never simply throw deep once. He just won't do it. He hates
If you set the over under at like 6.4 ADOT for him, which I think is what it was last year, I take the over. Is he going to be a deep ball thrower, quote unquote? No, but he will have options.
ADOT incoming.
It really, his ADOT is he always beats his wide receiver ADP of wide receiver 31 by 3 spots.
Yeah.
Danny, what was your Jones thought?
Daniel Jones is not good, but I think they can still kind of get away with it. Hopefully he runs as much as he did last year. That was really cool for fantasy purposes, especially
that's like absolutely essential to keep.
Yes,
he needs that as a baseline. Yeah, was running last year.
Yeah. It's the floor. That's the floor element of his game. Is the rushing, because you're not going to get volume, and he's a bad passer. I mean, there's nothing in his history that says that he's a good passer, and he's not going to be. There is no jump. We already know who he is. The Giants had to pay him because what are you going to do? Start from scratch?
Did they?
They had to. Yes.
I agree with that. Did they?
No.
We have an inordinate amount of Giants fans who listen to our show, by the way. We just made sure they're all very, very upset to start the season. Very smart by us. The Seattle Seahawks play host to the undermanned Los Angeles Rams as 5.5-point home favorites. Kyle Dvorchak, what is most interesting to you about this game as we race through the final 2 games because we're running out of time?
This Rams defense looks terrible. They lost like 5+ full-time starters. I mean, some of them lost. They traded and cut some of them. I mean, they traded the number 4 cornerback per PFF. They cut the number 1 linebacker per PFF. This looks like a defense that Geno Smith should be able to tear through. JSN is supposedly going to play in this game. I don't think he plays enough.
Practicing in full. Yeah, he is going to play.
Yeah.
As you said, a matter of how many snaps.
It's a matter of how much, and I would lean toward the under on most numbers you're going to set for me, but that will still be useful. 20 snaps from him is much better than what they got from their receiver 3 last year. This looks like a blow-up spot for Geno. I think he's like such a clear QB1 this week, and maybe even like a little bit of DFS juice in that the bringbacks on the other side are going to be so cheap. Maybe see a little Tutu, maybe see a little, if Puka Nacua is your guy, I think that's Denny, but he's thanking his Lord right now. But I do think this looks like a high-scoring game on the Seattle side, and a garbage timey. Maybe there's some PPR scam on the other side.
I do like me some correlation stacks in this game, and they are nice to have. By the way, DK Metcalf, a prime touchdown regression candidate, like him a lot in this game. So hey, here's what I'm going to say: you start DK Metcalf. How about that, folks?
Oh, about that.
You heard
Real quick,
folks.
I had to ask you guys before we end the show about Kenneth Walker, where I think there's a lot of summer fear with Kenneth Walker, and I still kind of unclear why. I noticed the other day there was like 0 Zach Charbonnet hype the entire training, except for the one game where he had like the 2 gifts. Like I just drove it. He did like pile drive the same dude twice, and he didn't even have like good stats that game, but he like totally wrecked this linebacker. But there was like no media hype, very little coaching staff hype. I feel like Kenneth Walker like really we slept to walk through the summer on him.
Yeah. And I think if you drafted Walker, you're starting him pretty confidently here. Game script should be really friendly for him. The Rams are probably going to be pretty terrible against the run, although probably worse against the pass, I should say. But who knows? Maybe bad against everything. And
that we know that. Yeah, they are.
And Walker, here's the thing. Even if Charbonnet eats into Walker's workload here, okay, if they split 50%, if they split it 50-50, the carries, Walker is the kind of guy who can take one of those carries for 50 yards and a touchdown like that, and it's over. And you've made the right call, and you're in a great spot.
I still think too the Charbonnet pick, even though it was in the second round, which just we can debate why that happened. It should not have happened. It was just still about having no number 2 last year when that really hurt them. They had 0 running back depth. They should have gotten depth later in the draft, but I still think it was just more about depth than it was about Kenneth Walker. Maybe they think Kenneth Walker might not stay healthy because of his violent running style, but I still feel very good about Kenneth Walker as a borderline RB1. There's one game left. It's the Arizona Cardinals visiting.
Pat, wake up. Pat, wake up. We lost. We simply lost him.
The Washington Commanders, Arizona and Washington, D.C., 7-point underdogs. Worst team in several years in the NFL. They have 38 game total. My only game note for this game was LOL. I'm told some people don't pronounce it that way. They say LOL, what have you.
I can actually confirm. I can confirm that was the only thing under this game. Look, the Cardinals are starting a 6th round rookie at cornerback. The other cornerback is Pat sleeping again. The other cornerback was among PFF's lowest graded last season. So, McLaurin is supposed to play. Just please keep an eye on him. I think you jam Dotson into your lineup if you can. Even if McLaurin does play, I like Dotson a lot. I mentioned Brian Robinson in my regression files piece this week which you can find on the website.
Really good new article from Denny.
Yeah, thank you. And Sam Howell is a premier streaming play. And don't be scared by that.
I was going to outpoint Anthony Richardson. Sorry, Denny.
Yeah, right. That's possible. And don't be don't be scared. Kyle's triggered. Don't be scared about like a blowout thing. Like, oh well, Sam Howell's not going to have to throw much in the fourth quarter. If they get there in the first 2 or 3 quarters, Sam Howell will be fine for fantasy.
James Conner's going to be a huge bust this year, by the way.
There you go.
I'm fine with that.
Horribly
inefficient on the worst team in the league. They're not going to be like protecting any leads. The goal line chances are going to be few and far between. He was not an RB2, and he was still drafted as an RB2. We did it. Sorry if we had to race through a few of those final games. That wasn't the best unveiling of the snoring bit I need to wait till someone's talking and actually do it. I started just snoring before anyone was even talking.
I didn't even know what was happening because I was looking for my
I
notes.
could tell you were completely worried I was like having a stroke or something. But thank you so much for listening to Kyle, Denny, and I break down all 15 of the non-Thursday night games for week 1. And so much detail on the website, so much detail in the blurbs. We'll be hitting all the injury news on Friday, any updates on Saturday, Sunday morning. Kyle Dvorchak's going to be online. We're all going to be online all day Sunday, breaking down every game. So much good stuff at Rotoworld this year. Like Denny has a new article. Kyle has several new articles. You're going to have like a start-sit type article, correct, Kyle? Nick Menzio might be getting ready to sue you, but you're going to have something like that.
Well, he's in a deep line of people suing me over the use of start-sit. So
yeah, it's true. We got a lot of amazing stuff on the site. So for Denny, for Kyle, and Pat, thank you for listening. We'll be back this weekend.